Have you ever dreamed of becoming a billionaire? Well, I sure have. But have you ever wondered how old you'll ever become one? According to Google, the average age for becoming a millionaire is 37. Meanwhile, the billion-dollar mark is reached on average when a person is 51 years old. But what if I tell you a true story of how a 17-year-old started Subway and became a billionaire?
Try Subway.
At the age of 17, a teen named Fred DeLuca opened his first sandwich store in 1965. At first, he was on the lookout for a way to boost his meager hourly pay and help him pay for college and medical school. After all, he had to do what he had to do to pay for his school fees. Hearing about this, Dr. Peter Buck, a family friend and a nuclear physicist, had suggested opening up a sandwich restaurant, citing the success of such a business in his hometown. The pair talked about it, and Dr. Peter Buck agreed to supply Fred with $1,000 in funds to help him finance the shop, and thus the partnership was formed. Woohoo! In 1965, the two launched their first business venture dubbed Pete's Super Submarines in Connecticut. After all, the long, oblong-shaped bun dish was a novelty, and they hoped it would appeal to the locals. Keyword, hoped, and like every business, the pair had their fair share of struggles. Instead of making their first profits in the first few months, they only had $6 left by the end of the summer. But even with the massive amount of loss, they started another restaurant in the area. They didn't care if they were at a negative of $994. They tried once again. Their second try, however, was still a failure. Even so, Peter and Fred defied logic by opening a third location. This time, the pair branded it Subway instead of their initial name, Pete's Super Submarines. Suddenly, it was a huge wow. Who knew third time's the charm? They were able to generate a profit of $7,000 in the first full year of operation. And instead of pursuing medical school, Fred, who was 17 at that time, chose to pursue a career in the food industry. Success was imprinted on Subway, and the locals loved the new branding. 10 years later, they were only able to open 16 locations in Connecticut. However, despite the success, Subway had another obstacle. They found it impossible to keep the quality of all the 16 stores at the same level. And so, Fred DeLuca realized that a franchise was the most excellent option for any store wishing to expand quickly. As a result, he convinced his buddy, Brian Dixon, to start the first Subway franchise in Wallingford, New Haven. Using the franchise business model, they were able to open 14 more locations in the same year. Fred established the guidelines that all Subway restaurants were required to follow. The franchises have to maintain the pillars of high quality, fresh food, and customer happiness. The corporation also mandated that the bread used in the restaurant be cooked on site. As the quality of the food improved, this served to boost Subway's reputation and demand. Subway quickly rose to prominence, and by 1978, it had opened its 100th location. Today, Subway has now expanded to practically every country globally, including the United Arab Emirates, Norway, Pakistan, Hong Kong, Switzerland, and others. There are currently 37,540 locations in more than 100 countries as of June 2021. Subway has grown from a small side company to one of the world's most successful chain eateries in history.